morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black Pearl Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, yes, I've been away for a while. I've been vacationing and sideswiped a tornado in St. Louis. Crazy story. Crazy story. We were driving to St. Louis for a conference, and I thought we should leave a little early because I saw the storm was coming through. And fortunately for me, my ignorance paid off. We got there and no issues. Did not realize how terrible the storm was for folks of St. Louis. And so they are still working to recover from the devastation that was that tornado. But I did take a vacation. As you can see, I've gotten a little chocolatey, had some sun. Went down to Florida, had a chance to hang out with my mother-in-law for her birthday. And we went to Universal Studios, had a good time. Just, with everything that's going on in the world, you still have to remember to find your joy, right? You still have to remember to find your joy, find a way to find peace and happiness in your life, because if you don't, then, you'll let these people win. Right? You let the crazy win. And I know a lot of people always ask, why do I go to Florida when their politics are blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I am not going to allow their politics to keep me from enjoying that sunshine that the divine created and all that sand and sun and all that good stuff. Nope, not going to let it happen. I'm going to the beach. So I had a great time. I'm back. But as you guys know, we don't have any candidates this year in Indiana. So you guys are okay. And are you guys following all the other podcasters out there? There are a lot of podcasters now. There are a lot of people out here doing this work. So even when I'm not around, you can still get your fix, because there's a lot of folks out here doing good work. So find them. If you're in a need, find them so that you can get connected. So first things first, I gotta talk a little bit about what's going on in my capital city and the issues with the accusers coming forward and Thomas Cook and Mayor Hogsett's behavior and the behavior at the council meeting. A lot of people have been asking me for my comment on it. I know a lot of people are asking for Mayor Hogsett to resign. He can if he feels like he needs to. I'm not going to ask him to resign because he's not going to, right? It's like asking the sun not to come up in the morning. Why ask somebody to do something or try to get them to do something that you know that they're not going to do? I know he's not going to do it. You know he's not going to do it. So, but what I will say more than anything else, this problem is not a Republican or a Democratic problem. This problem of women showing up to work and being totally harassed to the point that they have to file complaints about someone harassing them is the problem. And it happens everywhere in our society. It happens at tech firms. It happens in the warehouse. It happens at I don't know, everywhere. You name every public and private organization, somebody is being a menace to women. They are not allowing them to come to work and just do their job. So for me, can we talk about the real issue? The real issue isn't whether or not Hogsett resigns or whether or not Councilman Vop Osili can survive this scandal. The question is, can women survive this scandal? Can women survive being tormented at work? Can women? Are men going to stand up who think this type of behavior is horrible? Are men going to stand up and say enough is enough with this? I don't want somebody else's sister, somebody else's mother, someone else's daughter, someone else's niece to have to go through this. Are we ever going to really talk about the real issue? The real issue is that women cannot be safe at work. Now, so don't get me wrong. There are men who have been harassed, but the ratio ain't quite the same. So anybody that's harassing anybody, just stop it. Right? But the deal is this, when you have a political system where it's dominated by men and women want to participate and they want to be active members of either party, and men take advantage of that. They do. And I'm not saying it's all men. I need y'all to understand, because there are men out here who think this behavior is horrible, but they're not. I need them to stand up. I need them to hold these clowns accountable. I need them to say, hey, we're not going for this anymore. And until we decide to do that, every other question about this situation, in my personal opinion, doesn't have the same weight. We're just treating the symptoms and not the real problem. And that is, women should be able to go to work without being harassed, period. Now, if y'all don't like my stance, I'm not worried about that. I'm not for everybody. I get that. And I know you guys want, hold them accountable, continue to call them out on it, do all the things that you've been doing. I stand with you on that. But honestly, I'm not going to ask somebody to do something that he's not going to do. He's just not going to do it. He's not going to do it. And I wish that incident at the council meeting had gone very, very differently. I didn't like it. Not a fan of it. Dragging anybody out, especially Elise Schrock, who has been a stalwart in this Democratic community for as long as I've been around, someone who has had my back and has called me when I was wrong and corrected me. She's been here. She's been doing the work. And for her to stand with the victims of Thomas Cook's craziness, I applaud her in all her efforts to be a voice for these women. So to see her kind of, I just didn't like it. I didn't like any of it. It was almost like everybody came in hot and nobody knew how to cool the temperatures down. And that's what I wish would have happened, was somebody with a cooler head could have cooled it down, and that didn't happen. And so I feel bad for the women, because once again, women have to bear the brunt of males behaving badly. And they were just telling their story about what it was like for them being around Thomas Cook, why Mayor Hogsett continued to have him around, probably because he wasn't bothered by the behavior. He didn't care. He didn't care. A lot of guys see that and think it's no big deal. So he probably thought it was no big deal. So that is my comments on all of that. This is nothing new. It's not just the Indiana City County Council. It's not just the Indianapolis mayor. It is all over our society. And until we decide that women should be safe at work, none of the other questions matter. All right, that's my thoughts on that. All right, I got a couple of rants. Your governor's at it again. Wish TV reports Governor Braun on Thursday said he probably will fully dismantle and replace the Indiana Economic Development Corp Board. The board governs the IEDC's activities. It consists of 8 members plus Braun, Indiana Secretary of Commerce David Adams, and IEDC Executive Director Jeff Blade. During a Thursday afternoon news conference, Braun said he expected he will replace all of the board members. He said, I think the board has gotten to be maybe not as active as it should have been, and I've got a lot of people interested in it. It would be the second time this month Braun has reshaped the board governing a key state entity. On June 2nd, he replaced 3 members of the IU Board of Trustees. During his campaign for governor, Braun said the IADC's activities needed to be reined in amid the controversy over the LEAP district, a planned high-tech research park in Lebanon. Braun said he will have a full announcement on Monday. I want you guys to take note that with a swipe of his hand, he is reshaping and rethinking how boards are staffed and governed in Indiana. So when you start seeing everything look like Mike Braun, because they don't believe in diversity. Don't believe in that. So when everything starts to look like Mike Braun and nothing is being addressed in minority communities, please understand it's by design. It's by design. So one minute they said they're not doing enough, and the next thing he said they need to be reined in. Make up your mind. I cannot make your mind up for you, sir. So Mike Braun is on a mission to be an Indiana version of the Orange Menace. So it is what it is. The Indiana Capitol Chronicle reports Secretary of State Diego Morales faced intense scrutiny from state lawmakers on Wednesday about his myriad of controversies while seeking additional funds for his office related to cybersecurity, election oversight, and security duties. Legislators from both Republican and Democratic parties asked him specifically about his spending on no bid contracts and international travel, the latter of which has been criticized for mixing personal business with state duties. My work ethic is unmatched, claimed Morales. I'm going above and beyond the call of duty, and we all continue to do so. Other Morales controversies mentioned in the Wednesday meeting included purchasing a $90,000 car with taxpayer money from a campaign contributor and hiring his brother-in-law. I guess nepotism is okay in Indiana. While in India to speak at two tech conferences in March, Morales missed a key budget meeting, a particular point of contention for lawmakers, and didn't disclose the trip or its funders until later. Last month, he went to Hungary on a personal trip paid for by a conservative group, but also spoke as Indiana's Secretary of State. This week, he brought an entourage to ask for $10.2 million more with Chief Legal Counsel Jerry Bonnet. Morales, whose office is not tasked with promoting the state abroad, said he believed he and other Hoosiers need to showcase our state and talk about Indiana the same way people talk about other states. He says, I want people to talk about Indiana. I want them to know Indiana is open for business. The media should be saying it. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for promoting our state out there. Fatty Cadora wasn't having none of that. Fatty said that he missed the meeting, invited additional scrutiny, saying that such behavior in most professional places would impact an employee's standing. Basically, he said he could get fired. I'm disappointed in your leadership and the way you're leading the office, said Kadir. And then it kind of had like a little back and forth. It's unfortunate that I get judged for a couple of things here, but what about the rest? Morales asked in defense. And Kadora, being the brilliant man he is, says that's the nature of being a public servant. He don't want to get criticized, y'all. But while he's going on trips, and we don't know how they're being funded, and he took our taxpayer money and purchased a $90,000 vehicle. Wish TV reports Indiana agencies have laid off dozens of state employees in response to recently enacted budget cuts, marking the first such reduction since Governor Mike Braun signed the state's new slimmed-down spending plan last month. The governor's office confirmed the agencies under both the education and commerce verticals announced staff reduction on Tuesday. The Indiana State Museum also let go of several employees last week. So to kind of break it down, 39 of those employees that were laid off were from the Department of Education. So let me tell you where they're coming from. 16 employees at the Indiana State Library, 14 at the Indiana School for the Deaf, 6 at the Department of Education, 3 at the Commission for Higher Education. So again, guys, this man is out here running around in a $90,000 car, but we just laid off over 50 employees from the state. And he's not the only one spending big, crazy money on big rides. Lieutenant Governor did the same thing. But we're laying off people. Some people don't have jobs right now. But Diego Morales is traveling the world and traveling the state in a fancy car. So I don't know where people's priorities are, but they all pretty jacked up right now. Yeah, hopefully when his election comes around, they won't allow this clown to run again. But, you know, it's Republicans. They're the do as I say, not as I do party. You know, they want to be fiscally responsible and cut budgets, but they want to spend out the wazoo. That's all I'm saying. That's my rant. Here's my ad. You already know. Democrats, are you looking for an affordable digital content creation solution? Then look no further than Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. Indiana's own Dana Black is providing many of the communication wraparound services any Democratic organization needs. No matter the size of the budget, Indiana's own and Black Pearl Studios have you covered. Just scan the QR code or visit www.blackpearl-its.com. All right, guys. You know, there are a lot of bills that'll be coming up, be taking effect, that'll turn into law come July 1st. And a lot of those are education bills. I got an email from a good buddy of mine who ran for office, Paul Steury, and he says, Dana, let's talk about what's going on up here in Elkhart County. So, guys, I'm really excited to have on my show tonight. We're gonna dive into a lot of the pieces of legislation that are going in effect that impact education. July 1st of 2025 with Paul Steury, who is from Elkhart County Coalition for Public Education. Paul, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying summertime. I'm a teacher, so I get the summertime off to recuperate.
I love that for you.
Yeah.
I love that. I didn't know you were, for some reason, I feel like I didn't know you were a teacher. I don't know why I didn't know that.
How about that?
How long you been teaching?
Well, all my life, basically. I was a professor of environmental education at Mary Lee Environmental Learning Center of Goshen College. I taught junior high for a while. Oof, that's hard work.
Wow.
In the past 5 years, I've been at the Elkhart Academy, which is a high school an alternative high school for at-risk youth. And so it's for the kids that have a hard time with regular school.
I love that.
Might have made some bad choices, and my job is to edutain and get them to be excited about science.
I love that. I mean, I love that because we're falling behind. And if we let this, this current administration at the rate we're going, we're going to fall behind, the rest of the world when it comes to science and technology, because they're cutting funding for research. They're cutting funding at the federal level so that we cannot be competitive in the world. Oh, by the way, save lives, right? That's right. What science is about. So tell me about this Elkhart County Coalition for Public Education. Who are you guys?
Well, it's an organization that is just trying to get people active in their community, especially when it comes around schools. Just because, as we know, the legislators down in the State House make a lot of decisions that affect education. Mm-hmm. And we, as a coalition in Elkhart County, want to be strong. Not just teachers. We want lawyers, doctors, garbage men, radio hosts,
right?
Whoever is there to join in to support public education, because right now public education is kind of under attack.
Absolutely. And even more so directly when you see that when the budget came out, it was a streamlined budget. And to see 39 people from the Department of Education or education period being cut, especially 14 from the deaf school.
Yeah.
I don't know about, we are very fortunate, right? We are privileged. We are hearing people. I imagine making your way through the world, not being able to hear is incredibly difficult, and they need a little bit extra help. What are your thoughts, sir, on the fact that they are laying off people from the state library and from the school for the deaf?
Oh, it's ridiculous, especially with the property tax reduction. So, because it's going to affect all of us. And one thing I want to make sure everybody knows on this is the Elkhart County Coalition for Public Education is nonpartisan.
Okay. Nonpartisan.
Because I want us to, I want everybody to be involved. But the main thing I fight for, and people call me opinionated, but the main thing I fight for is education for all and the environment for everybody. And so, because we have to address our literacy and improve the way we think. I think one problem with science for certain people is it asks too many questions.
Mm, yeah.
And people don't want us to ask questions. People just want us to be
Yeah.
non-critical.
Yes. What is that? What is this need for us to not be critical thinkers? I can't figure that part out. I mean,
It's a way of making, excuse me, but money for the rich, for the wealthy, well-to-do, and because they need workers, they need people to be able to work those 40, 50, 60 hours a week without complaining.
Yeah. Yeah. Without complaining. Yeah.
And I talk to my students about that a lot because I want them to expand their horizons, because I want them to know, even though they've been the redheaded stepchildren for the school system, that they can accomplish much and that they can be all they want to be. And so we have to, as this coalition, fight for those people.
Yeah.
And
So
everyone.
what are some of the programs, or what kind of efforts are you engaging with this organization to get people involved?
Well, here I will, give me 1 minute.
Okay.
So our main goal is to make sure that all people are involved.
Right.
Sure that we all work together. We have a petition out there, and actually, I'll give that to you so you can send it out to your members. In the petition, all it's saying is, I support public education for all students of Elkhart County, where our schools are strongest when they are fully funded and led by local stakeholders.
Okay. Okay. So tell us about what kind of, I know there's a lot of stuff coming down from the state that make public education, they're trying to defund it all together, right? They're trying to get rid of it. Talk specifically about some of the things that you've seen in Elkhart County that pushed you to be a part of this organization and help build this coalition up.
Well, like I said earlier, people think I'm opinionated, and I am, because I want to make sure that everything in regards to teaching and teachers, which then affects our future, are respected. And luckily, there was some bills that were not passed, such as crossing the line between church and state.
Oh, God.
HB 1231 would have required schools to post the 10 Commandments in all schools.
Okay. Did it pass, or it didn't pass?
It did not pass. Okay. There was also SB 523 that would have allowed religious chaplains to work in schools.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And because of this reduction in budgets in regards to chaplains, we at our school, we have a therapist that comes and talks to the students. His funding has been cut, and so we won't have a therapist anymore, which is a big old bummer, because that's what our students need.
Right. With so much going on in the world, wow, a licensed therapist, I assume, like someone who's trained in adolescent mental health care, right, and emotional care.
Yeah, and then because of this, these property tax cuts, Elkhart community school system and a lot of other school systems are going to be missing $3 million a year. That's a huge component of our budget.
Wow. That is scary. Yeah, there were a lot of good bills that were introduced that didn't pass. Let's talk about those real quick. Um,
Well, you,
SB 213 by Senator Ford and Cadora would have increased school funding, teacher salary, and the income cap for eligibility on My Work Pre-K. It did not pass.
yeah,
So
actually, that bill would have, and thank you, Fadi. He had requested that we would teachers a minimum salary would be 65,000.
wow, that would have been a good starting point.
And then what is it? The starting salary now is because of this bill. Which bill was it?
It went from 40,000 to 45,000.
Right, and 45,000. If you think about uh
For someone who has a
all
4-year
professions.
degree or a
Oh, yeah.
master's degree, $45,000.
Well, and the stress involved of, you're there to teach, but it's a lot of the majority of teaching is actually management and management skills. And that management is it can be stress inducing.
Mm-hmm.
So at $45,000 as the minimum, that's crazy.
And you consider that the surrounding states pay more.
Yeah.
So if you are like someone in Elkhart who is a hop, skip, and a jump away from Michigan, you could go get a teaching job in Michigan. Or if you're on the border of Ohio, Illinois, or Kentucky, I know teachers who have run for office that live in Indiana and work in Louisville because they get a higher salary. So what is happening to our students? Not saying that the teachers that we have right now are not wonderful and doing the best that they can, but are you really getting the best?
Right, exactly. And so we need to address that. We need to actually say, hey, Senator Dorio, that's my senator, or Senator Rogers, who is a huge component or leader of the education movement for, in my opinion, negatively, because she really promotes
The charter.
voucher system
Oh,
and
which
the whole charter school system. And actually, there was a bill that did not pass, which thankfully it would have the HB 1136, the Teshka bill,
yeah.
dissolve public school corporations and replace them with charter schools if more than 50% of the eligible students did not attend that school. Which I know my students. They have a hard time. They have a hard time getting to school because their families aren't home.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they have to do childcare for their families.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. I believe, and it was Representative Porter who is my rep. He talked about this bill at a town hall, and he said this was a bait and switch bill, where we're going to drop the heavy to get you guys all flustered and bent out of shape so that we can slide in some other stuff that you think ain't as bad, because there's still some bad stuff that got passed when it came to education. But the idea that in our state constitution that we are required constitutionally to fund public education for every student, and for him to introduce a bill to say we're going to get rid of it, and then I don't even understand why they even entertained that or allowed him to submit that when it would have literally gone against the Indiana Constitution.
Mm.
I don't understand that one. You know?
Well, and then there was this SB 257 that did not pass, thank God. It would have required schools to participate in nationalist propaganda.
Yeah.
Permitted investigations into teachers who are accused of not complying.
I mean, First Amendment, just be damned, right? I mean,
Yeah. We see that nationally right now.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, and this one, the reason why this one is so problematic, when you think about how they literally were trying to get rid of Jackie Robinson from the military academy, like you don't want to talk like Jackie Robinson. You gonna take so the idea that they are literally trying to erase Black, brown, Native, indigenous, stories, the stories from our American history, and pretend like a thing didn't happen when it really did. Hence why today, we are celebrating subjectively Juneteenth. I was going to talk about that later, but, I have my opinions on that as well.
Right.
I mean,
well, and so my students, I'd say the majority are BIPOC.
Mm.
And so they have a hard time that I'm an old white middle class male guy. But I want really, 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 really want people to understand, and because you commented on this earlier in your rant, there are some white guys that are out there, old white guys that are supportive
Yeah.
of everything because we got to make this world a better place. And
For,
my students actually say, "Hey, Mr. Steury, you know too much. Why are you so hopeful all the time?" And I said, "I have to be because I have two sons and a beautiful wife."
absolutely. And see, I have never been of the belief that all one group is horrible and all one group is good. Right? That's impossible because you're
Amen.
talking about humans. I have seen, I've had straight white males befriend me in a way or stand up for me in a way or fundraise for me in a way. And I've also seen queer black people not give me the time of day. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Humans are going to human. That is my phrase. I've been saying it forever. And I love that you are in these spaces because you are offering them what they need, which is a quality education. You may not necessarily understand socially what they're dealing with at home, but when it comes to science, you can give them, the theory of revolution or evolution or whatever, all the I'm not
Yeah.
a sciencey
Mhm.
person. I didn't do too well.
Well, in my degree, I got a master's of science from IU Bloomington in outdoor resources management with an emphasis in environmental education. And I tell my students my favorite hobby is issue investigation. And one of my in my environmental science class, I want them to investigate an environmental issue that surrounds them
Oh, I love that.
in their community because I want them to know that they are important citizens of their community, of where they live. And so then I ask them, so what are the environmental issues of Elkhart? And, my list is, water quality and air quality and soil quality and sewage and blah, blah, blah. And their list is drugs, guns,
Mm.
teenage pregnancy. And when I think of environmental education, I have to make sure that we involve those
Mm-hmm.
issues because the environment is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with a young woman, and she was really interested in getting a lot of our urban communities more engaged and more involved in environmental protections. And I remember having to tell her, we talk about global warming, sometimes it's abstract and it's not tangible to some people. We see the impact that it's having if that's what we're looking at. But if you're looking at getting up in the morning, feeding your kids, making sure that there's a roof over their head, getting to work, trying to put gas in the car, all the things day to day, and that's what you see. Talking to them about global warming is it don't it's that's not the conversation. And fortunately, she had to learn the hard way because something happened to her personally and she was like, I got it now. Right?
Right.
It's But I think that the tactic that you are using, because you're saying the environment is everything, if you're
Yeah.
talking about those issues that are in their faces and can apply the environmental justice aspect with it, then you never know.
And that's again why we have to become political beings, all of us, to support education. One thing, a poster I have in my classroom is my my son's friend is an artist, and I asked her to draw me a picture of her holding a bowl full of worries, and inside the worries was drugs and exploitation and rent and lack of funds and et cetera, et cetera. While up around the outside of it is, like you said, climate change
Mm-hmm.
or evolution or these big of the age of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to, as a teacher and as us as educators, we have to understand, we have to help remove some of those worries.
Yeah.
Then we can then put those abstract ones in that bowl of their worry. And so, whew, that's a pretty big job for teachers. And then you expect us to live on a fairly low salary.
And it's frustrating because they keep changing the expectation of teachers, putting more on you. I mean, to the point where you guys are told you can get gun training so you can prevent school
Yeah,
shootings, but they're not giving you combat pay.
right.
I, I'm dumbfounded at the notion of the what is expected of teachers, but how they're not allowed to live a I don't know. They have to get Uber jobs just to make ends meet. And if I hear that story one more time, I say shame to all of them. Let's go back down some of these bad bills. Yeah, because there's a lot of them, and I want to make sure that we are. Because again, Elkhart County Coalition for Public Education, nonpartisan organization, trying to encourage everyone to get involved. One of the things I always tell folks is you don't have you may not have time to read all the bills. Right? You may not have time to read all the bills, but this is a way for you to focus just on those education bills, or if you want to get involved in protecting public education. Let's talk some more about some of those things that passed and that will be going into effect on July 1st.
Well, so there's a SB 255 increases the amount of time a secondary student may be off campus for religious instruction during school hours.
Yeah, saw that one too.
And it's just, Or then HB 1515 removes local control about zoning decisions and granting charter and private schools approved land use.
Yeah, that coincides with the dollar purchase bill. They were doing really well with that bill with urban schools until they tried to do that in Hamilton County.
Thank God.
Hamilton County's like, we're not giving you nothing for $1. You can't get a stick of gum for $1 in Hamilton County.
Yeah.
What else?
And then one of our representatives up here in Elkhart, Wesco.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah.
That guy.
He's a preacher, evangelical preacher, and he makes no distinctions between diplomas issued by accredited schools and homeschooling. And I actually have worked with a bunch of homeschoolers, but how do we accredit? How do we make sure that they are truly passing completely? So,
is there like a graduation test?
There is a graduation test, but we just have to. Why is it not okay to have this understanding between passing from a public or a private school or being a homeschool? I think we should actually have to disclose where we got our education from.
I think so too, and especially since you're using my money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand how you get to use my money, but I can't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, isn't that what they're saying about the DEI?
Yep.
Right? You're using taxpayer money. You're going to not teach that anymore. Well, wait a second. Hold on.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Then there was another bill that passed by Senator Dorio here in Elkhart. So I called Blake Dorio a friend of mine. Oh. Then he and I can talk with each other, because one of my main goals for being a politician is we have to have dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we can't just hit each other over the head with baseball bats. We have to be able to sit down and have that beer or have that coffee and have discussion. Yeah. He actually in third house, you know what a third house is, right?
Yeah. Well, explain it for those that don't.
Okay, a third house is during the legislative session, your representatives are supposed to be offering up monthly meetings about what they have accomplished or what they are proposing in bills to become law.
Okay.
And Blake, during the middle of a third house here in Goshen. He said, "Hey, Paul," and in front of everybody, he just said, "Hey, Paul, you and I are friends. We can have these discussions, but we don't always get along, or we don't always agree with each other." And I said, 95% of the time, you are correct. We do not agree, but we can still talk.
Exactly.
Which I ask him often, why be so restrictive? Why do you want to have so much power over things?
Mm.
I wish everybody would not be scared of talking to their representative or their senator.
What was his answer, though? That was a great question.
He never answered.
Oh, of course not. Of course not. Okay. I thought maybe, he was going to be like, homie, this what's up. Because I often ask my Democratic representatives, what are the conversations like in the chambers? Like Wesco is one of those people. Every time he talks, I don't want to be violent because my mama would not appreciate it, but he's just someone who is just incredibly disrespectful to the female lawmakers. And I've listened to him talk to Representative Pryor and Representative Campbell. And I'm like, bro, why do you talk to people like that? Like, and he's a kid, he's a kid, So the other part of it is I'm like, how come you don't have any respect for your elders, man?
Right.
Okay, so one of the ones that did
another bad bill that passed was and this is a Dorio bill, SB 287. It just makes school boards races partisan.
Yeah, that's a bad deal. But excuse me. That's one of those instances where they think it's going to be in their favor. Because if people are doing straight party ticket voting, they think it's going to be in their favor. But I don't think that's going to go the way they want. Because especially in the primary, right? Because there's going to be in places like Indianapolis where they have worked diligently to try to take over and spend a lot of money on an IPS school board. And now, if you are a charter school person and you're running as a Democrat in a primary against an anti-charter school person,
right,
you're done.
Right.
You're done. So I don't think this is going to work out as well as I think it's going to. You're done.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Well, the one that drove me crazy was HB 1002, and it's by Banning, and Banning is the key driver in defunding public education. If you don't know it, was a massive deregulation bill that eliminates educational experience and residency requirements for the Secretary of Education. It also removes many required trainings and policies, including behavior support and SEL. It passed. So basically, your Indiana Secretary of Education can live in Florida.
Yeah.
Live in Texas.
Right.
And we're going to pay them to live in Florida and Texas, and they don't have to know anything about what's been happening in Indiana, what our environment is like, what the culture is like in any part of our state, and they can run and tell us what's happening. Paul, I know that's not one that
I'm a firm believer that we need to know. And the students actually then can sense that. And I think the students can actually feel belittled by not being respectful to the actual
citizens of the
world of
state.
education. Yeah.
Like literally, if you want to work in for the city of Indianapolis or the county of Marion County, you have to live, with the exception of law enforcement and firefighters. It's still a bug. It's a thorn up my behind. But you have to live in Marion County. So why is it acceptable for you to not live in the state, people?
Yeah.
Not have resident. This is, I guarantee you, this is going to come back to bite people as well, because somebody who knows nothing. Can you imagine they doing to someone out of New Orleans or out of Louisiana doing to us what they did to New Orleans, or someone in Kansas deciding what is best for Indianapolis and Indiana and Fort Wayne. Come on, guys.
Right.
But this is why we say get involved, right? This is why the Elkhart County Coalition for Public Education exists.
Right, exactly. That bill that you're talking about, the 1002, it's huge. So, yeah, it's one of those omnibus type bills too. It just kept adding on and adding on and adding on things. So if you take a look at it, it's 139 pages long.
Holy moly.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. So they sent out their Indiana education legislative guidance this week because of all these bills that will be taking place. And I'm gonna drop the link in the chat so that you guys can follow along if you want. But this thing is supposed to offer guidance to educators about the new bills, many of which we are finding to be, that me and Paul are talking about, are really bad. But this is what the expectation is for this upcoming year, and this is the guidance. So, guys, it's after the fact. I know, I get it, but at least you will know come July 1, 2025, what the expectations are. So House Enrolled Bill 1499, updates to Employment Aid Readiness Network, Indiana Retirement. So, I mean, just all kinds of stuff.
Well, and one thing I want you to, Dana, and your membership or the people that are online right now listening, you need to understand this. And so you need to look through all this and get that knowledge base to be ready for the next session, because every year it gets a little more intense, as though they want to get rid of the public education system.
Well, yeah, that's how they ended up getting that IU board done, that they threw it in at the last minute. No public hearing on it in the middle of the night. Because, see, my thing is this, and I know your organization is nonpartisan, and I'm cool with that. But if you were doing something that was on the up and up, why you got to be all secretive about it?
Yeah, exactly. Let's have transparency. We talk about transparency being a positive.
Yeah.
Well, why aren't we always transparent?
Because they know their bills, that their ideas are not popular.
Right.
If they actually had to debate them, which again, they don't want, like you said at the beginning of the show, the top of the show, they don't want you asking questions.
Yeah.
So what else? What other bills? There were some good bills that didn't get passed. Do you think we could try to get some of those reintroduced in the 26th? So let's talk about some more of those. Shelley Yoder had, and we're getting this information from Mad Voters too, guys. They always put out some good stuff. Shelley
Yoder actually is from Middlebury. She's from Elkhart County.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm inviting her to come here and talk with us about our Goshen Green drinks, which we've had Blake Dorio speak here. We've had a variety of people come and speak at our Goshen Green drinks, which is a monthly gathering of people who want to talk about sustainability, which can include education.
Absolutely.
Over a beverage.
I love that. It sounds like you're real active in your community. You got your tentacles in a little bit of everything, and I think that's great. Those are community leaders, people. I tell y'all all the time, not every political leader is a community leader, and not every community leader is a political leader. You can get more done sometimes on this side of politics because we actually care about the constituents. We're not trying to get paid. I'm not saying not all of them are like that. I'm not saying all of them are like that, but some people do not. They will put your interests behind the interest of someone that's giving them money. So Shelley had SB 320, would have added fiscal reporting and accountability requirements for vouchers receiving private schools.
Yeah, because right now they don't have to be responsible for what, which is a little bizarre. And 80%, so I've been told, 80% of charter schools fail.
Yeah.
And so why not keep them accountable? And it's just a basic way of breaking down public education.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing. Since the plan is 20, so they wrote in the budget, and if I'm wrong, I'm certain someone will correct me, but in the budget, it's a 2-year budget, right?
Yeah.
And so this in 25, they didn't they didn't create universal vouchers, but in 26 they will be universal vouchers. So there will be no income maximum, right? You can make
Right.
any amount of money and get voucher dollars to send your kid. So basically, if you were going to send your kid to private school anyway, you're going to get like a $7,000 coupon
Right.
from us, from
Right.
the people who are making, from the teachers who will be making $45,000 and have a couple kids.
Right.
Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Like,
And then they want to dissolve public school corporations, and it's just crazy.
yeah.
And I actually went to Bethany Christian High School, so I went to a private school, but I did not get any voucher monies at all. I got monies from my church. I got monies from relatives. I got money from my parents. Actually skimped a lot. And why do we expect, if we have this place called public education, and we know the majority of people in public schools cannot afford going to a private school, and private schools are not held to the same accountability as in public school systems. We accept everyone.
You have to accept everyone.
Yeah, it's by law. Yes.
And the idea that there are private schools who are taking my gay black dollars and can discriminate against, a family that looks like me.
Yeah.
With no accountability. But see,
Yeah.
I'm trying to tell y'all, I need a way to figure out how to deduct and get my gay tax break from all the people that are discriminate against the black student, the Hispanic student, the Asian student, the gay student, or whatever, getting into their private schools with my gay money, with my black money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't. Why are we okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, Paul, though, the people that suffer the most, it's not. Granted, public schools do suffer when we take dollars out of the system, right? But in Indianapolis, I think about how Indianapolis has always been the target because this is where all the money is. This is where the money come from. People don't like to talk about it, but Indianapolis is the economic hub of this entire state. How we go, the state goes, right? And there are plenty of schools here in Indianapolis for people to choose from because there's competition. If I'm a for-profit business, I'm going to set up shop where there are people. The people who are going to lose are the folks in these rural towns. These rural community schools, these community school corporations, where there is no choice. There might be one Catholic school, right?
Right. Exactly.
And so guess what? That ain't black and brown kids.
Right.
That's my white brothers and sisters in these very rural places whose children will not have the same opportunities as other people in urban areas. And so now you continue to create the rural-urban divide.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
This is,
this coalition is affiliated with ISTA, the Indiana Teachers Association.
Love that.
And the Indiana State Teachers Association would have loved to have had SB 229 and 230
Okay.
passed, but it did not pass. It would restore some of the collective bargaining power
Okay. Yes.
because, of course, we're getting our opportunity to bargain to increase our pay stripped from us,
Yeah.
and we need to fight for that.
Yeah.
And the main thing is, and as you probably know, a lot of people are ignorant when it comes to any of these bills.
Yeah.
So how do we get, and the main goal for us as this coalition is to educate others
Mm-hmm.
and educate people of power that surround us that support public education.
So tell us how we can get involved. How do people in Elkhart or people around the state, how could they create their own coalition if they wanted to do so?
Yeah, that's a great question. And what you need to do is get in touch with ISTA. And there are several coalitions around the state, but we've been told that we're one of the biggest movers and shakers. And that's just because we want to really make this happen. And so we've met with our legislators. We actually had a coffee with teachers, and Dorio showed up, Roger showed up, so did Joanna King and Miller. We asked them questions. They didn't really answer the way we wanted them to answer the questions, but at least we were there and we had conversation, and they heard from us.
Okay.
They heard that we're unhappy and we need to start thinking about schools more.
Did they care? Honestly?
Uh, Again, I'm a friend with Dorio, so does he care? He listens to me.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Does he make bills that adhere to what I'm talking about? Not yet.
Okay.
But hopefully I'm influencing.
I love the optimism. Listen, I love that optimism. And I love the way you answer that question because, if I were in a court of law and I had asked that question, they would have been like, objection, how can Paul know how he feels? So
Yeah.
You answered that correctly. So so they through ISTA they can set up, say, a Kokomo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually Richmond has one and Evansville has one. And so there's a variety of ones. And actually what I'll do, Dana, is I will give you a link that you can put on your page that then people can touch on, which would be fantastic.
I'm copying and pasting the Facebook page now. So if anybody is interested in just kind of browsing around and learning about the organization, I've also included a link to the ISTA. That way you can, just browse around. I think this kind of work is necessary. It's not glamour work, it's hard work.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But we're just trying to help people understand that if you better your public school, your whole community advances.
Absolutely.
And that's called progress, which is not a leftist liberal term. Progress means to improve.
Right. Right. Well,
so
I don't think leftist liberal is a bad word, so I don't.
Yeah, because you're turning left.
That's right.
So, and one thing I just wanted to comment on is one reason why I am the way I am is because my parents taught me to be active in my community and to help make change and to help promote greatness.
Love that.
But also in my master's degree, my graduate program, in my principles of environmental education, he talked about John Dewey. And who's John Dewey? He was this philosopher of education. And one of the main things he promoted was schools are the vital centers of community. And so advocating for them to be these miniature societies, they would actually then learn to collaborate and engage with this wider world. And he believes that schools should reflect the social life of community.
I
Bring
Love
this
that.
democratic participation and preparing students for active citizenship.
And that's exactly what we should be doing instead of saying, preparing them to regurgitate information,
Yeah.
because that's what we're doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Paul, tell us when your next meeting is, so, and where it is, so that people can, if they want to come and just kind of listen in Elkhart. It's nonpartisan, so should be safe for everybody.
And we're just trying to reach out to everybody and anybody who wants to help. That's what we're doing.
Okay. And
And
I put the link on so they can message you there.
yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Paul, this was great, because it's one thing for me to have a rant and rave about education when I don't have any children. I'm not a teacher. I've never been an educator, but I can tell right from wrong. But it's something totally different when you have someone who has spent years in the system and also has been politically engaged, because you have been on my show as a candidate before and understands the ins and outs of policy making. It's something to hear it from you, right?
Yeah.
The same things I pontificate about all the time and get on people's nerves and repeat over and over again. To have someone who actually works with students, thank you very much for preparing the next generation of scientists and researchers, the person that's going to find a cure for that disease. Hey, I'm happy with the weight loss drug people. Be happy, all them people,
Well, and yeah, actually, I'm a believer that you can always go after whatever you want, and don't hesitate to ask anybody anything. So one of my students really wanted to become a physics major, and so I connected with, who's the famous Black physicist who's on shows a lot. I reached out.
You're talking about the astrophysicist?
Yeah.
Y'all know what his name is. I'm finna Google him.
Well, I emailed him and got in touch with his
Neil deGrasse.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. I got in touch with his secretary, and his secretary sent me a book to give to my student. That basically, the book was all about physics and this and how to make it simple. But he wrote in that book saying, "Please make a difference in this world."
Oh,
and so that just made my student go, "What?" And that's our job as public educators, is to help inspire all students, every single one of them, or at least two.
Man, now I just love Neil deGrasse Tyson even more. Like, my goodness. Oh, that is a great story. That is a great story. Paul, thank you so very much for coming on and talking to us about Elkhart County Coalition for Public Education. Guys, there's ways for you to get involved. I always talk about don't sit on the sidelines. So here's an organization. If you're in the Elkhart area, or if you want to create another one, reach out to ISTA and find out how you can get one in your area. I know they have one here in Indianapolis. I see some of the faces that are on that board. But if you care about public education, if you care what happens to the future of our state, here's another way for you to get involved. Thank you, Paul, so very much for joining us today.
Hey, and thank you for doing everything that you do. You help push visions and missions, making this world a better place.
Thank you. And thanks for reaching out to me, because I wouldn't have known about you guys if you had to reach out. You reach out to me if you got a good idea, I will bring you on the show. You have a good one, brother.
Thank you.
All right. Wow. Okay, so listen, y'all thought I was just bugging out over the last couple of years about all these education bills and the impact that they're having on our community. But here's a teacher telling you everything that's happening. And one of the things that, I am a victim of, like a lot of people were in Indiana, I wasn't fully taught my history. I didn't know about Juneteenth until I became a full-fledged adult. And so making sure that we have teachers that encompass all of us, and like Paul says, I'm a middle-aged white guy, but I want to make sure that my kids understand science and the environment that they live in. He wants to make sure they understand the environment they live in is the entire environment. He doesn't judge. He just educates. So on this Juneteenth, shout out to Act Blue, who gave us the day off today. I took it upon myself to spend some time with my partner, Nicole. And as always, we have reflexive conversations about the world around us, what we did right, what we did wrong, how we can be better. But I am also fully aware that a lot of people use this holiday to, you know, it's performative for them. They don't get it. They don't see our freedom. They don't want us to be free. They don't believe that we exist, that our existence matters. There are a lot of people out there. And so one of the conversations we were having in our Obsidian ERG this week was, why isn't Juneteenth celebrated like any other holiday? And I understood a lot of the answers, but the biggest answer is the majority of the country is not Black. We're only 12, 13% of the population, right? The vast majority of the population is white. And to celebrate Juneteenth would be a reminder of the horrors inflicted on Black people by white people before Juneteenth happened. And they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to sit in that discomfort, I believe. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. So if you genuinely in your heart celebrated the last enslaved person being set free, yay. And I thank you. But if you just try to, if you don't understand the importance of staying involved in the Black community and making sure that the Black community has what it needs, not just financially, but also civically, emotionally, environmentally, and that we have the same opportunities to strive and be successful. When we didn't get the same head start. We started off in a hole. We had to dig ourselves out of a hole first before we could even start on this journey. If you don't get that, keep your happy Juneteenth. Just keep it. All right. But for the rest of us, happy Juneteenth. I hope you enjoyed your day. But you see Indiana's Own is right here hollering at you, and I'm working. So I didn't work at Act Blue today. I took the day off. But guys, I have another show coming up next week. The goal is to try to get some of the non-traditional folks on the show that we normally wouldn't have during the regular campaign season, because I try to get as many candidates on. But next week, I'm going to have Indivisible from Central Indiana on, and we're going to be talking about what they're doing. And mark my word, I promise you, I have a special guest coming on that y'all going to be like, dang, Dana, how you do that? I got another guest coming. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll holler at y'all next time. Peace.